Let's take stock of where we are. And do you think we've now reached the position where it's impossible to separate what's going on in the US from the politics of this year?
Yeah, you'd think it was grave enough that politics wouldn't intrude, but they have. Light bulb moment for me yesterday morning. Donald Trump tweeting after the night of terrible rioting across America how good his poll numbers were. This evening, in the last hour, he's tweeted about sleepy Joe Biden again, saying he thinks he knows the answers, he doesn't even know the questions. And that, of course, follows Joe Biden breaking cover, coming out from the basement where he's been for the past 3 months and taking off his face mask and launching a scathing attack on Donald Trump for his handling of the race riots that we're seeing across America. Now, Donald Trump doesn't want to back down. He wants to say, look, I am the guy who is going to bring law and order back to the streets. That is going to be his pitch. I think it's notable how few Republicans have come out and backed what happened yesterday when he went to that church and held up a Bible, leading to thousands of peaceful demonstrators being tear-gassed in the process. Republican senators have been stopped and asked for their reaction. One prominent supporter of the president said, oh, is that what happened? I didn't actually see it. No one can say in November there won't be a clear choice between Donald Trump, Mr. Law and Order, Mr. Tough Guy, and Joe Biden, Mr. Unity, Mr. Empathy. The only thing I think they have in common is that both of them are in their 70s.
John, many thanks once again. John Silver there for us, our North America editor. President Trump is facing widespread condemnation for his handling of the unrest in dozens of American cities. It follows the killing of George Floyd, an African-American who died last week in Minneapolis while being detained by police. His death has now been declared a homicide following an official post-mortem.
Meet Joe. Joe can't find a job. He would drive for a ride-sharing company, but...
What was a...
And do what we can. Do what we can.
Bishop Marion.
Tonight, a neo-Nazi in Pennsylvania, a small rural town near the New York border splitting apart by a growing movement filled with hate. The man at the center of it says Trump's election has emboldened him and his followers. It comes as white nationalists prepare to take to the streets this weekend, 1 year after the deadly Charlottesville rally. Our Sarah Seidner is out front in Ulysses, Pennsylvania. I want to warn you, though, when you watch this piece, some of the language that you will hear is extremely disturbing.
In the calm of this rural northern Pennsylvania town, a sign that hate lives here. Are you a neo-Nazi?
Do I embrace it? I don't try to push it away.
Well, you're wearing a swastika on your shirt.
Exactly.
And you've got swastika flags. Why the flags? Why the shirt? Why these hateful symbols in this town?
I don't think they're hateful. I think it's an ideology that has been completely misinterpreted since the Third Reich.
Okay, now I've got to stop.
I'm a
misinterpreted. Misinterpreted. 6 million Jews were killed.
You'll never sell me on that.
I'm not trying to sell you.
Yeah.
It is reality. It's history. It cannot be denied. Daniel Burnside is a lightning rod of discord in Ulysses, Pennsylvania. Population 690. With the help of the internet, his message has spread far and wide, giving his town attention it does not want.
Rural America spoke up when they elected Trump. Rural America.
And by rural America, he means white America.
We're staring down the barrel of a gun here in white America. There's still 193 million white Americans, yet the vast majority of them are in their 60s and 70s, will be in the ground in the next 20 years, and therefore we have the possibility of becoming a minority in our own country. A possibility.
It sounds to me
of becoming a minority in our own country.
Like you're afraid of being me. And being me...
This is my country.
...is great. This is also my country.
You guys didn't win the culture war.
He invited us on his property to talk, but when he doesn't like our conversation, he explodes.
Get the out of here! Now!
We do. Just down the street, we're met by a dozen residents who say Burnside does not speak for this town. There are families in this county that blame politics for people like him sort of being able to come out and be very loud. Is that fair?
Our president we've got right now hasn't helped the situation a whole lot. You know, he's done a lot of the same beliefs You know, at least he won't speak against them. Okay, this guy feeds off that stuff.
Among the crowd, many with grandfathers or fathers who fought the Nazis in World War II.
We're good people, and he's stepping on us. He's stepping on all of us. You know, we're all one tribe. You know, and who does he think he is?
Teacher Debbie Hamilton says she just returned from touring concentration camps in Poland.
One of the things that we spent a lot of time talking about was passive resistance versus active resistance.
So far, they've chosen passive resistance with Burnside. On the other side of Potter County, Joe and Shoshana Leshner are convinced passive resistance is the wrong choice.
I'm not saying you should go to their houses with pitchforks and guns, you know. I'm saying hold a peaceful protest against them.
Traditionalist American Knights of the Ku Klux Klan Neighborhood Watch.
After seeing KKK flyers appearing in their neighborhood and Burnside's decorations in their county, Joe did protest, only to receive a threat by one of the supremacists he stood against.
They would look at me and give me the finger and even make little gestures, you know, like they were going to shoot me.
Joe says the racial hatred intensified and his Jamaican bride arrived.
In Walmart, you know, I got a lot of that.
In their minds, if more people stood up against hate, the racist would be forced to leave and let love stand. The Leshners moved about 4 hours away to another small town, but Shoshana says it's made all the difference. She finally feels comfortable walking down the street. And as for Ulysses, the borough president told us they have dealt with an outspoken neo-Nazi in their midst before. They pushed him out several years ago, but that was because he broke the law. And he says there is nothing they can do about Burnside unless he does the same. Aaron?
All right. Sarah, thank you very much. Incredible reporting there. I want to go now to Mark Lamont Hill, professor at Temple University and a political commentator here, and Amy Kramer, co-founder and co-chair of Women for Trump. Thanks to both. So, Mark, look, you heard the man there, the neo-Nazi. You also heard one of the members of the community there, that gentleman say, and I quote him, "The president that we got right now hasn't helped the situation a whole lot. He's got a lot of the same beliefs. At least he won't speak against them. This guy," referring to Burnside, "feeds off that stuff." Your reaction? Is this enabled by the president?
It is absolutely enabled by the president. It's exhausting watching this, you know. You have a president who normalizes white supremacy, normalizes anti-black racism. Even if he doesn't echo what this guy says, he creates an environment where that stuff seems okay, and that's how he feels. So it's not that he creates racism and white supremacy, although he may nurture it, but he makes an environment where you can say it out loud, which only creates more danger for other people. Not just abstract danger, not just theoretical danger, but real life violence.
Amy?
Yeah, listen, Aaron, I mean, that piece made me sick too. I mean, it made me uncomfortable. I don't like it, and I understand why the people feel the way they feel about the guy that lives in their community. But you can't blame this on the president. He has nothing to do with this. I mean, we are in an environment right now where everybody is overstimulated. It's a 24-hour news cycle. There's 24/7 social media, and it's like a pressure cooker. And people need to take a step back and decompress and get away from politics a little bit, because this is not healthy for us to be always at each other like this. I mean, when you sit most Americans down at a table and talk about issues, we agree on most things, Aaron. But because of the 24/7 and the social media, it's everybody's at each other all the time.
Amy,
and we need to stop.
I hear your point.
Wait,
and
but
I think
hold on.
Go ahead.
This is okay. So if we're blaming social media and we're blaming the 24-hour news cycle, let's look on social media. Who's the biggest tweeter out there? Not Kanye West, Donald Trump. Let's look at the 24-hour news cycle. Who's the biggest story on every news channel? Donald Trump. If we blame rap music, if we blame music, if we blame movies, if we blame culture, we blame everything down to the Teletubbies over the last 30 years. How can we not look at the fact that the biggest pop culture figure, the biggest media figure, the most powerful man in the world is Donald Trump, a man who has said there are good people on both sides at a white nationalist rally. Someone who says that Judge Carrillo's Mexican identity makes him incapable of being impartial.
So, Amy,
somebody who has said that.
I want to play some of this, because Amy, I think this is the question. I want to say Burnside himself, the man that you know everyone watching found sickening, you included. He told the Washington Post that since November 2016, activity has doubled among his neo-Nazis. Okay, so he's putting Trump's inauguration as the date that was important to him in terms of getting followers. And when you hear that other gentleman say the president won't speak against him, he's got some of the same beliefs. Amy, this is what he's talking about. Mark referenced some of it, but let me just play some of them and give you a chance. I'm going to play them right now. Here's the president.
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
We're building a wall. He's a Mexican. We're building a wall between here and Mexico.
If you are saying he can't do his job because of his race, is that not the definition of racism?
I don't think so at all.
I think Islam hates us. Oh, look at my African American over here. Look at him. Are you the greatest? She is a low IQ individual, Maxine Waters. I said it the other day. I mean, honestly, she's somewhere in the mid-60s, I believe.
Amy, do you really think that doesn't embolden neo-Nazis, white nationalists, racists?
Aaron, it doesn't. Why would it embolden them? I mean, I think that's ridiculous. Look at Antifa right now. They've amped up their activities. They're attacking the right all over the place. I mean, is that the president's fault or is that the media's fault? Whose fault is that? I mean, it goes both ways. It doesn't make it right. Donald Trump is not a racist. And what is happening here is that people want to throw that racist label at him because they don't want to talk about the good things he's doing right now.
Because he's saying racist things.
But these are complete. These are straw men. First, no one said it's Donald Trump's fault. Also, this conversation isn't about Donald Trump being racist. The question is there a relationship between what Donald Trump's doing and how these people are feeling? The most compelling piece of evidence is that white nationalists are saying, yes, Donald Trump makes us feel better and stronger and safer and more confident. Yes. They're saying that the day that they can mark their origin story of getting stronger is the day he became president. And then when you add the laundry list of things he's said and done that they approve of, it goes to prove that he is strengthening their position. Now, we could have a different conversation about whether or not Donald Trump is racist, and we could have a different conversation about the red herring of Donald Trump making the world better, which you were about to go into. But the point here, right now, is that Donald Trump makes these people feel better and safer and stronger, and everything he says and does is in line with their agenda.
What do you say to that, Amy, that the man there, that neo-Nazi, said, I can tell you with certainty that since November 2016, activity has doubled. He is crediting the election of Donald Trump. He is the neo-Nazi.
I mean, you know what? I don't know that that's true. I mean, so he's saying it. What I do know,
but he feels it, Amy. Doesn't that matter? Isn't Donald Trump a racist and a hateful person? He's crediting the president.
He has no control over who supports him and who doesn't. I mean, he can't tell people not to support him, and he certainly can't go out there and micromanage these groups and communities across the country. I mean, what he's trying to do is, wait, can I finish? I let you talk, Mark. Let me talk. What you don't want to talk about is that African-American approval numbers for Donald Trump have doubled in the past month, from 15% to almost 30%. I mean, that's the thing, because he's creating jobs. The economy's back on track. He's doing exactly what he said he was going to do. And that's a big story. But instead, it's like, squirrel, look over here at this. I mean, this guy is nobody in a little town of 650 or 690 people in a nation of how many millions? I mean, he's no one. And just putting it on the news is only giving him advertising. I mean, that's what we're doing, is advertising.
There are massive rallies planned for this weekend by neo-Nazis.
What's that?
There are rallies. There are people who are coming out. This is not something that happened before,
Aaron,
Amy.
I mean, what are we going to do? I can't stop that. It doesn't mean I'm
not saying you can. I'm simply saying, do you acknowledge that the President of the United States is part of the reason? He said there's good people on both sides. I don't know how you can't acknowledge that. You may want to say he's not a racist, but you got to acknowledge that he has empowered these people to hear their voice.
What is happening is that everybody tries to throw the racist label at him because there's no way to, I mean, how do you push back against that? You can't totally debunk it because you can't prove what's on somebody's heart. That's the problem. And so when you can't win on the facts, on the economy,
I mean, that's a horrific thing to have to admit about a guy that you support.
No,
isn't it?
I can't totally debunk that he's not a white supremacist.
He's not a racist. He's not a white supremacist. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I mean, we can disagree on that. I don't think it's ridiculous. When you call the countries in Africa blank hole countries, when you say Judge Curiel's Mexican identity makes it impossible for him to be impartial, when you refer to Mexicans as rapists and thieves, when you go over and over down, when you go to a white supremacist rally or hear the news of a white supremacist rally and say there are good people on both sides, there aren't good people at white supremacist rallies. The fact that he said that, again, awful. The fact that he would not denounce certain people
let me
is
ask you
awful.
a question, Mark. Let me ask you this. If he's a racist, then why did he just grant Alice Johnson clemency when Barack Obama wouldn't? Tell me that. Why did he let her out of prison?
That's the Kim Kardashian.
You can...
Mark.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with it. You can grant someone clemency and still have a belief that they're inferior. You can grant someone clemency and still think that their countries of origin, like Africa, are blank hole countries. They're not competing arguments. Yes, I'm not saying he's never done anything for a black person. He may have loaned a black person money, given him a job, given him a big hug, put him on apprentice, given him a White House position. That doesn't change the fact that he says things and does things as far as policy goes that reflect a racist agenda and an attempt to appeal to white supremacy.
All right.
That's the problem.
All right, we'll leave it there.
That's
Thank
why
you both.
African American unemployment is at the lowest it's ever been.
Okay, thank you both.
That's not a racist policy.
I appreciate your time.
You know those times when you come across looking ugly, and then you try to explain your comments, but you dig yourself an even deeper hole? Yeah? Well, let's review the Fox News host Laura Ingraham and the week she has had thus far. Here she was on Wednesday, making a comment so questionable, it drew applause.
Meet Grammarly Business, a solution to help your entire organization communicate more clearly and professionally. It's a writing...
Please step up to the congregation.
Yes, you are under...
When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists.
He's a jackass.
Dog here today for Tuesday, June 2nd goes to our celebrity in chief, Donald J. Trump. I'm going to tell y'all something, man. The last time I saw someone live up to and exceed all expectations like Donald J. Trump was LeBron James. Let me explain before your little simple-ass brains explode and your thumbs get to saying Charlemagne just compared Donald Trump to LeBron James on the radio. Relax your digits before you tweet and listen, okay? When LeBron James was a junior in high school, he was on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. Junior in high school, on the front cover of Sports Illustrated, with the headline, The Chosen One. I remember this article in 2002 by Grant Wall. It said LeBron James is so good that he's already being mentioned with Michael Jordan. ESPN played one of LeBron James's high school basketball games on TV. Might have done more than one, but I remember one in particular because I remember that Jay Bilas, I think that's how you pronounce Jay's last name. Jay Bilas wrote, asking the question, did LeBron mania go too far? Jay also asked what level of coverage, coveting, and pursuit is appropriate for a 17-year-old kid playing high school basketball. I remember all that, and the reason I remember that is because I was thinking to myself, and we'd be having discussions that they are about to Memphis Bleak this kid LeBron James. No disrespect to Memphis Bleak. That's my man, that's my guy, and I'm not saying anything that I haven't said to him in a conversation here on The Breakfast Club. But do you remember when Jay-Z was touting Bleak as the new improved Jay-Z? He put that bar very high. He made expectations for Bleak really, really high. Okay, like, damn, we was all like, wait, the new improved Jay-Z. At the time, it was Jay-Z who gave us Reasonable Doubt. Okay, classic. In My Lifetime Bomb 1, classic. In My Lifetime Bomb 2, classic. We was like, wow. If Jay says this guy is the new him, then this guy must be phenomenal. The problem with that was Bleak was good, but he wasn't Hove. And it kind of made folks not appreciate Bleak the way they should have because he was good, he just wasn't Sean Carter, okay? LeBron James didn't have that problem. LeBron James, if you remember back when he first came in the league, all the hype surrounding him, they called him the chosen one, they called him the king, the heir to Michael Jordan's throne. To me, personally, LeBron James has exceeded all expectations. To me, he absolutely has. I don't think he's better than Jordan, but that's not the point. He's top 5 of all time easily. People debate whether he's better than Jordan, whatever. My point is, he is who they said he was.
They are who we thought they were.
Now, as I was saying about the president, the last time I have ever seen someone live up to and exceed all expectations like Donald Trump was LeBron James. Ladies and gentlemen, Donald J. Trump is who they said he was. Who is they? Everybody. Okay, I remember in August 2016, there was an article on QZ.com that said Donald Trump and his followers could destroy America. I remember Politico had an article that said, in the era of Trump, is the GOP headed for ruin or renewal? I remember in indivisible.org said Donald Trump is a national security risk. I remember The Atlantic had an article that said, will Donald Trump destroy the presidency? People have written books comparing Trump to Adolf Hitler, and they've compared him to other dictators like Stalin and Mussolini. You've heard people say Donald Trump will lead America into fascism. When all these things were being said in 2016, 2017, we said, no, that would never happen in America. Give the executive producer, celebrity apprentice a chance to run the country. Things won't turn out that bad, even though everybody and their mama and their grandma said, no, it's going to be bad. Congratulations, Donald J. Trump. You have exceeded all expectations of how bad people thought you were going to be. Okay, America right now, unemployment rate past 40 million. Largest unemployment rate since the Depression era. Okay, Americans are shook to death because they don't know what will happen when the pandemic relief ends. Okay, there's anarchy in the street because the law and order president, as he calls himself, encourages police officers to rough folks up. So he made an already horrible problem in America, police brutality, worse. So now that folks are out there in these streets protesting, rioting, looting, what does he do? He declares war on the American people. This is your man live from the Rose Garden in D.C. yesterday. Listen.
My administration is fully committed that for George and his family, justice will be served. He will not have died in vain. But we cannot allow the righteous cries of peaceful protesters to be drowned out by an angry mob. The biggest victims of the rioting are peace-loving citizens in our poorest communities. And as their president, I will fight to keep them safe. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. I am mobilizing all available federal resources, civilian and military, to stop the rioting and looting, to end the destruction and arson, and to protect the rights of law-abiding Americans, including your Second Amendment rights. Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
He wants to use the military to quell the violence. He wants to turn America into a military state. Now, if y'all thought that stay-at-home quarantine thing during coronavirus, you know, that whole thing that he said was a whole... If y'all thought that was martial law, nope. When we are a military state, that's martial law. Okay, temporary military rule of domestic territory, military dictatorship, okay, an authoritarian government controlled by a military and its political designees. This is what we have come to, America. I don't know if we are in Infinity War or the Endgame right now. Okay, did half of us already get snapped away, or is this when we've brought everybody back and we just finally trying to defeat Thanos? All I know is, once again, America, it got the president it deserves. Okay, this is America's karma. All right, Donald Trump is America's Frankenstein. He represents all the worst aspects of America for us, but all the best aspects that make America great for white people. Okay, this is what happens when you let white privilege, white entitlement, white arrogance, and white supremacy run rampant. Okay, see, every single one of those things are self-destructive because they aren't rooted in anything positive. All right, Donald Trump is president because this country was founded by rich white people who created and structured this system so that it would always work for, guess what? Rich white people. Okay, that's why white mediocrity is so often rewarded, because rich white people, since the founding of this country, always have had a built-in advantage, a cheat code of sorts, okay? Because the country was founded on principles, laws, and systems designed to benefit the Trumps of the world. And now, that guy is president. But never, at least in modern times, since I've been alive, has a white man revealed more about them damn devils than him, okay? Donald Trump has found a way to out-white man the white man. All right, Donald Trump, being the Frankenstein of white supremacy, has found a way to marginalize everyone, including other white supremacists. Okay, Donald Trump has found a way to make everyone in America of all races, all colors, all creeds feel like a nigger. Oh, we about to be in a military state. We all oppressed and marginalized. We all niggas now, okay? Welcome to the club. Now, what are we gonna do about it, niggas? Okay, are we all gonna band together and finally force this country to dismantle this system of white supremacy? Because as long as white supremacy exists, there will always be Donald Trumps of the world. He's just a new version of an old pale problem. Okay? So until we have elected officials who recognize white supremacy and are willing to dismantle it, God bless us all. Please give the celebrity in chief, Donald J. Trump, the biggest hee-haw.
All right.
Is there any hope? I guess. You know what? There is a little bit of hope. When I hear people like Gavin Newsom, governor of California, when I hear him say things like this.
The black community is not responsible for what's happening in this country right now. We are. Our institutions are responsible. We are accountable. We have a unique responsibility to the black community in this country, and we've been playing lip service about that for generations. Things move away in headlines, and we indulge on the margins, but we don't systemically, foundationally address the root of these issues. We prune. We don't tear out the institutional racism from all of our institutions, large and small. We don't. We know that. The question is, do we or are we prepared to do something differently about it?
Mm-hmm.
That's right. The black community is not responsible for what's happening in this country right now. Okay? When he says we are, he's talking to America. Okay? The old white males and the white males that built this country. Their institutions are responsible, and they need to be held accountable for this moment and every moment moving forward, and it needs to be called out because white supremacy will not be dismantled until they choose to dismantle it. Keep the pressure on, people.
Donkey Today is brought to you by the law office of Michael S. Lamonsoff. Don't be a donkey. Dial pound 250 on your cell and say the bull if you've been hurt in a construction accident. Dial pound on your cell and say the bull.
So, let's retrace. You started growing your business with Fiverr, which has thousands of freelancers in hundreds of categories. But stop, after only one service? That's like leaving after the first inning of a baseball game. Like getting a manicure for just this finger. Like arriving at Bora Bora but never actually leaving the airport. I wanted a bracelet for your favorite restaurant. Exiting the theater after the opening credits. Amusement park to only try the teacup. Latest phone. Using this just to... Oh. What, Janice? Only completing the try in a triathlon. Sorry, that's not really trying at all. So go back to growing your business and get your website, voiceover, social content, search engine optimization, and more on the world's fastest and easiest freelance marketplace.
Meet Grammarly Business, a solution to help your entire organization communicate more clearly and professionally. It's a writing assistant that works seamlessly across platforms. Here's how Grammarly works when employees are writing emails. Grammarly offers real-time suggestions to improve clarity and professionalism as employees type. To learn more, visit Grammarly.com/business.
You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV Angela Yee, Charlamagne the God. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
My fellow coon,
Trevor Noah.
We're both Uncle Toms.
Is that what we are
This
now?
Yes,
this week
we are.
Oh, that's nice.
This week you guys are.
Because of meeting with Miss Tommy Lauren.
That's nice.
Now, I'm going to be honest, Trevor. I was insulted when... I can take it, but I was insulted when they was coming at you.
Why were you insulted for me more than yourself?
Because you grew up in South Africa during apartheid.
Yes.
That's... First of all, this may sound crazy. Explain to the people what apartheid is.
Well, I mean, are you gonna take my question?
It's a crazy question. Was that Envy's question?
Yeah. Explain apartheid.
Oh, that's hilarious. I'll explain it to you, Envy. I'll explain it. No, I mean, I feel like everyone should know this, but apartheid was basically a system of laws in South Africa, a system of laws that were designed to oppress people of color and all people of color. You know, apartheid made it illegal for black and white people to interact with one another, my parents included. You know, at the time when they were a couple, it was against the law. Me being born was against the law.
It's a crime for him to be here.
Yeah, my dad couldn't be on my birth certificate. My parents couldn't have me on the, like, you had to have a registry of all the people that lived in your house at the time. My grandmother couldn't have that in her house. But I think most importantly, the thing a lot of people don't realize is apartheid essentially was perfect racism. You know, like, I'm still learning about how perfect the system was in terms of, like, they went around the world. The government actually set up a commission to go around the world and study racism. And America was one of the places they came. They went to Australia, they went to the Netherlands, they came to America, and they were like, what is the racism here? How does the state oppress people of color? What can we use from the system to take home? And they did that. They went to South Africa, and they made the most perfect racism ever. And that is the world I lived through. I'm lucky because, you know, I was 6 years old when it was officially ended. I mean, but as anyone knows, when officially a thing ends doesn't mean it goes away. But you know, my family lived through that, and you know, our country still lives through those effects.
But from 1 through 6 is a very important age of the child's life. Their mind is shaping, it's developing. There was times your parents couldn't even love you in public.
Yeah, well, that was my whole life, but I didn't know any different. Like I always say to people, I go my parents were great in insulating me. I grew up in a world where I didn't know that these things were happening. My dad didn't walk with me, but I grew up with kids who didn't even know their dad. So I was like, yeah, well, there's my dad. At least I know I have a dad. So I didn't think that I was suffering more than somebody else.
It's just how you were born and raised, so you didn't know anything different. It's not
exactly.
like you had it and it was taken away from you.
Like my mom, when we walk in the street, I write about this in my book. Like when we walk in the street, my mom would dress up as if she was my nanny. Because that was the way she would not look like a black woman had this mixed child with a white man. So, but I didn't know that. I was just like, that's how my mom dresses.
And you said we do still feel the effects of racism today. And there's people who will say, well, you know, we need to get over it. You guys were never slaves, so how can you even speak on what slavery is like? And everybody stop complaining and blaming, you know, being black for certain things happening in this country.
Well, this is what I say to those people. I go to argue that is to say that effects don't matter, to say that effects don't compound. You know, everything that happens in the world has an effect. Everything that happens to you. So if you have a system that promotes your well-being, you are going to grow in that world. Absolutely. So if your great-grandfather could have some money and a house and a piece of land, and then his child, and then his child, and then it's going to go on, and then it's going to get to you in some way, shape, or form, even if it's just in the way of knowledge. Knowing how to own a place, knowing how to get credit, knowing how to live in a different world. These are benefits that you have, you know? So when you say that to somebody, I don't understand how anybody can say that, where they go like, oh, well, I started from nothing. I'm like, no, but you didn't start from nothing, though. That's the thing you don't understand. You started from nothing in your world, but it's not nothing.
I just said that because Tommy Lauren said something similar to that previously. So
yeah, but that's the thing. I understand how people go, why are you being a victim? You know, why? And it's like, no. There's a difference between claiming a victimhood and standing up and saying that the playing field is not level.
That's a fact.
There's a difference between that, and it is hard to see. It's the same way it was hard for me to see that as a man. I had to acknowledge that. I never thought that as a man I lived in a misogynistic world. I never thought that as a man I was in a place of privilege or power.
I just realized
but then I realized
this year.
When did you
was that you?
Just realize
I just realized that this year. And the only reason I realized that is because in my life, women have always been the strongest people. Whether it's been your mother, your grandmother.
Yes.
But you don't realize how much they were either keeping from us or how much they were going through at the time. So I'm like, oh, I didn't know that y'all felt insecure and stuff.
Yeah, well, no, more importantly for me, I didn't realize that women lived in a world that was inherently misogynistic. Like small things as well. Fireman, chairman. For instance, in our lifetime, we've seen it change to chairperson.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's small things like that.
Yeah.
Tell you where you're
Seeing
supposed
Hillary
to go.
Clinton run for president, and so many people wouldn't vote for her just off the strength that she was a woman, or the fact that women don't even make the same amount of money as a man for the same job.
Exactly. So these are things we have to acknowledge. Now, a lot of the time, the problem with that conversation, I feel, is it becomes, if I acknowledge it, does it mean I have to give mine away? And that's where people shut down. So I go, you know, like people go, so if I acknowledge that black people have been and are being oppressed, does that mean I have to give up my freedom then?
We all got privileges.
I feel that way truly. I feel like women have privilege, men have privilege, white people have privilege, black have privilege. Like we all have our own unique privileges.
I don't know that women have privileges per se in the conversation of power, but I hear what you're saying. There are benefits. There's a difference between having benefits to being certain things.
Go against us all
Yes,
the time.
completely.
It's always something that, well, I can do it, but you're a woman, so it's different when you do it.
Completely.
I mean, yeah, but men have
that's
those double standards. Our double standards are stupid for women. Like women can't play football. Like no, they probably shouldn't. A lot of men shouldn't play football either. You know what I'm saying? But women
but
really
a woman's
shouldn't.
reputation can be destroyed if she sleeps with 3 men. But if a man sleeps with 100
If I sleep with 3 men, my reputation will be destroyed.
Yes, that's the
So
word.
if I sleep with 3 men right now, my reputation will be destroyed.
No, it would be expected.
So I mean,
we'd be like,
that's funny.
three?
Double standard.
That's funny.
Let's go back to Tommy Lloyd because you guys got it bad last week. I mean, I heard
We still
Uncle
getting it bad
Tom,
now.
I heard sellout. I heard they called him the devil. What else they call you? Sambo. They called you a bunch of names. You guys a bunch of names for meeting with this woman.
And some people feel like because she was an attractive woman.
Well, here's the interesting thing on my side. First of all, one thing I've come to love and learn when it comes to like the American press is you have to know that they will frame the story in the way that it seems like that is best for their narrative.
I gotta get these
So
clicks,
so
Trev.
so what happened with Tommy was this. After the show, like I know that it's hard to come into my space. It would be just as hard for me to go into a conservative space and have these conversations, right? She was gracious. She comes in. She says things that I don't agree with, and I was open about that on the show.
Right.
What I didn't like was afterwards, people who claim to be progressive saying things like, "Oh, you know this C word. Oh, you know this bitch on
What's
the
the
show.
C word?
This
Cunt.
cunt.
Oh,
This
cunt.
cunt."
Okay.
I don't know if you
him
can
say
say
it with his
it.
accent. That's all.
But for real though, no. But then you get people going. Oh, I'm glad you put this dumb blonde bitch in her place. And I'm like, no, that's not. You see what you've just done now is you've taken up a cudgel of misogyny to use against her, claiming to be. Now you get what I'm saying? You're the same person. You can't do that when it suits you. You can't do that. You can't be like, no, I'm for women's rights, but that bitch over there, it's like, no. But then you're going against that. And what I didn't like was that I was like, I don't stand for that. I honestly don't. I fundamentally disagree with many of the things she says. But I was like, I don't. So I said, let me meet up with you and your producers. I'll come with me and my producer. And we just want to sit with you and say thank you and just be like, we're not for what has happened here post the interview.
So wasn't it deep?
No, but then what's great is they cut out my people, which is, I mean, that's what happens. Yeah, in the picture, and then it's just like, that's why they don't show me walking out because I'm walking out with my people.
And
it's
then
like,
you say you sipping a drink.
Y'all don't even look intimate.
I get that though, but I get it. These are things.
Did you pay for the drink, Trev?
That's no, actually I didn't.
She paid for it?
Okay.
No, I didn't. My people paid for the drink. Funny enough.
You know, it's
So-
funny because you pay attention to the small details.